whether you love them or you hate them, I think Apex might be here to stay. And they have just announced their new Apex 3.0 payment policy / like rule changes. So I'm going to break down everything they've changed, some for the better, some for the worst. I'm going to give you my opinions, my thoughts, and then, of course, I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. But before I get started, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you're supporting the channel, and let's get right into it. Apex has completely overhauled the way that they're doing payouts from now on, which I actually think is a really good thing. The first change that they made was no more request period. So if you remember before, you had the 1st and the 5th for the first window of requests, and then it was the 15th through, I believe it was the 20th to request a payout. So they completely got rid of the request window, and now you can request anytime. The only thing that you need is 8 trading days to be able to request a payout. Now, not only do you need 8 trading days, but you also need 5 of those trading days to be a profit of at least $50. Now, what that does, and what they don't say here, is they actually got rid of their flipping rule. So if you remember, their flipping rule basically said, like, you can't open a contract and then immediately close a contract and count it as a trading day and basically get to keep the profits and just counting it as a day just because you needed the day, right? So they've gotten rid of that by saying, okay, you can flip now, but on 5 of the 8 days of trading, you have to make at least $50 worth of profit, and that kind of takes care of that flipping rule so they could get rid of it. Now, another good thing that they've changed is that they're approving payouts within 48 business days, and then you should receive your funds within 3 to 4 business days. And they even said that sometimes they're approving them faster than 48 hours. Sometimes they're getting them out as fast as, 2 or 3 hours, and then getting funds out to people a lot faster. So that's always really good. When you're talking about prop firms, you want to see those payments be as quick as possible. And, in the past, it's not even that people were upset about how quick, well, they were a little upset about how quickly they were getting the payouts. That was actually a problem for Apex. But now I think with the fact that they've added a whole bunch of new people to their team, I think they're able to process payments a lot faster, and that's allowed them to get rid of the request window, which is also a really good thing. Now, probably the most important change, and the one that I thought that they needed to make and clarify, was their 30% consistency rule. They've decided that it's 30%. There's no gray area. There's no them looking back and seeing whether or not, well, maybe this trade was like 35% and they just kind of let it go. So, we're going to do it. But this guy, he's been making, quote unquote, a ton of money, and he's at 31%, and we don't want him to get a payout. You know what I mean? Like, I could see that happening from time to time, or at least that'd be an argument for people because, on social media, it can get blown up where somebody could say, oh, well, I had a 40% and they paid me out, but this guy had 31% and he didn't get paid out, and he had way more money that he was trying to, get out of the prop firm than I was. So that's why I got accepted and this person didn't. So getting rid of that, I think, gets rid of the unfairness that rule could potentially have, whether it was within their organization and people trying to, help on the inside or not. I think it just gets rid of that. And I think it's a really good thing that they clarified that it's just going to be 30%, and that, if you're at 40%, it doesn't matter how much money that you have, you're breaking their 30% consistency rule. Now, another thing that I didn't know about their about their consistency rule in general, which I think was really bad, and I'm glad that they're doing this, is that it doesn't go backwards, it only goes forwards, meaning that what they used to do, and I think this was horrible, I didn't even know this, so this is good, but what they used to do is, let's say you made 40%, and then you ended up going to get a payout because you brought it back down, like your biggest trade, let's say, was like 4K or something like that, and you got within the 30% that you needed to, and you took a payout. They would look at that 40% trade and say, okay, you got to continue making that money to be able to get a payout. And they would basically, I don't want to put it like this, but it's kind of what it was they would use that trade against you instead of just like resetting everything. Because once you take that payout and you've basically shown like, hey, I can get that consistency down, that it should be done with at that point. Like you've already met the objective, and they weren't doing that. So I'm really glad that they're only forward looking now, and they're not looking backwards at your past trades. Once you get a payout, that cycle should have been done, and all subsequent cycles should be based off of those trading days. So I'm really glad that they've done that. And now they're also adding a safety net program, which they didn't have before, which I'm going to get into, which this one I can see making some people mad. to understand the safety net program that they're doing, you first have to understand how they used to be and why I think people are going to be a little upset. So in the 50K accounts, before you got to reach 52,600, and you could basically take out $2,000, and it would leave you with the $600 left. And in which case, most people would turn around and then probably blow the account with $600. It's not a lot of money left for you to work with. And for a lot of people, it was just like, let me get to this payout, let me get all my money out, and then if I blow the account, so what? I got my 2,000. So how a lot of other safety net programs end up working out is, if you use the 50K account and you reach 2,000 or 52,600, the trailing stops, and anything above this 52,600 ends up being what you can request, right? So you have to make the $2,600 in the account, and then everything else would be yours, leaving the quote unquote safety net in your account. And it just basically is like a buffer, is what they call it. Now, they're doing that, but not really. So you still have to reach the 52,600 in the account to be able to request a withdrawal. And the minimum request is $500. And all you can take out is $500. If that's what you have as your safety net, right? So to get more than $500 of a request, you would have to make the additional money above the 52,600. So if you wanted to request $1,000, you would have to be at $53,100 to be able to request an extra 1,000, pretty much. So basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that you have the account for longer and you don't blow the account. On the back end, this also helps Apex because basically you have to make more money for them to pay you more money, right? So you have to, I don't want to say you have to show more consistency, but on top of that, you kind of have to risk a little bit more as well. You can't just make the 2,600 and then pull out the 2,000. To make $2,000, you got to make 2,600 and then essentially make another $2,000 to be able to pull out that 2,000. And basically you got to be at about 54, let's say 6-ish, to be able to actually pull out the $2,000 that you'd want to pull out and still be able to keep the buffer that they're looking for. So yes, it does suck for the trader, but I think from a company standpoint, it's actually a good thing for Apex, right? It kind of protects them more. And I know this is probably gonna be a hot take that a lot of people are gonna be upset about, but at the end of the day, I think for the longevity of Apex, it's actually probably a good thing. Now, this only applies until the 4th payout, and then after the 4th payout, then there's no longer a safety net required. So remember, with their change, now it's every 8 days you get a payout. So that means after basically 32 trading days, right? 32. After 32 trading days, basically you wouldn't have to worry about getting a safety net anymore. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of a positive when you really think about it. So speaking about payouts, their 100% payout policy has changed as well. So instead of taking 4 months, you only need 6 withdrawals to get 100%. So at 4 months, your safety net is going to disappear. And then at 6 months, you'll be able to take 100% of the money that's in your account. Or you can be moved to your live account before the 6 months. And it takes about an average of 21 days per month for trading. So it's going to take 48 trading days to get to the 6th withdrawal. And that's if, you meet all the rules and you get all the payouts on time. So it takes about 2 months and 1 week instead of the 4 months it took before. So basically cutting the time in half. So it speeds up the path. And then after the 6th month, there's no max request amount and no caps. And existing PA account holders already 100% or on month 3 will not be impacted. There were a couple rule changes as well, but before I get into that, I wanted to talk about this real fast that I noticed that I'm kind of blown away with, and I really don't agree, and I think this is one of Apex's problems, and it's this right here. Algo's bots auto strategies must be manned, monitored, and managed, not set and forget and walk away. I think this is a huge problem that Apex has that I think they need to eliminate. There is no reason that they should be allowing algos, bots, and auto strategies, because for the simple fact is how can you determine whether they're going to be manned or not? The whole point of having an algo, a bot, or an auto strategy is for it not to be manned, for it to do all the work for you. And one of the problems, and the whole reason why they had that DCA rule, which by the way they took away, but this was one of the reasons why they put that into effect, is because of the algos and the bots that they claim were being ran and doing, these certain strategies that they didn't agree with. So why are you going to turn around and allow this on your prop firm? I don't know any other prop firm that allows an algo or a bot to trade. Now, I mean, this is a win for everybody who uses algos and bots, to trade. I mean, I'm sure there are certain algos that, you do have to trade for yourself. And I mean, even if, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you could run an algorithm on TradingView and trade on Trade of 8 and they would never know. And, it is what it is, right? But to have it actually integrated and be okay on their system, I think is bad, in my opinion. I don't think that they should have that at all. But I mean, hey, it's in the rules. So if you're using the algo or bot or, an auto strategy, hey, good for you. They'll never know whether it's manned or not. I think this is a bad rule that they have, but hey, it is what it is. One of the rules they talked about that I also really didn't agree with is the contract consistency rule that they have. So contract consistency, not erratic, without cause and purpose, growth with growth, not decline with growth or spikes for windfalls or payouts, trading strategy, not payout strategy. So I really don't agree with this at all. And here's my reasoning why. So if you're taking a trade and let's say you hit a big trade and you were in 10 contracts and now, it's like you made $6,000, right? Well, if you size down, you were going to have to trade for a long time to be able to fit within that 30% consistency rule that they've talked about. The whole point of the 30% consistency rule is to get rid of the windfall trades that they talk about or the gambling. And that has nothing to do with how consistent you are with your contracts. Yeah, in a perfect world, in a real account that you're growing with your own money, you're going to start small and you're going to grow your contracts as, you trade, right? But in the prop firm world, that's not how it works. The strategy, your trading strategy, is the payout strategy. The point is to get the payout, right? So their whole buffer, you could say, or their guard against this is the 30% consistency rule. It's not the amount of contracts. If that was the case, then you might as well just limit the amount of contracts people can trade, which they're kind of doing, by the way. But my point being is that this 30% consistency rule should eliminate the contract consistency rule. You don't need both. You only need one. The 30% rule is there to be consistent. It doesn't matter how many contracts you trade because that 30% consistency rule is going to be a catch-all. So I think they really need to get rid of this when it comes to your trading system. Obviously, it makes sense when you're trading in a live environment, but when you're trading in a fake environment with their fake money, people are going to contract flip and change contracts depending on if they're down or if they're up, or if they're more confident in a trade or not or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, because the point that I'm trying to make is that the strategy for people in prop is to get to the payout. That's their number one goal. It's obviously trading is a byproduct of that, but you're trying to get to the payout. So that's a rule I would probably get rid of. I don't think it's a rule that's needed just because you have the 30% rule, but hey, that's just my opinion. But on that note, they have changed the contract. So now they have implemented a scaling program. And again, I can see a lot of people being upset with this, although I still think this is probably a good change for Apex. I think it's a good change for traders as well. But I mean, I know a lot of people are going to be upset, but now they're only allowing half of the contracts until your trailing threshold. Now, this is actually a lot better than most prop firms, because most prop firms, they don't give you half. They give you like a fraction of half. Like, let's take Top Step, for example. Top Step, out of 50K account, will give you 2 contracts, right? Compared to Apex, who on a 50K account is giving you 5. So the one thing that I would like to know, though, and they didn't really clarify, is it 5 full minis and 50 micros, the equivalent? Or is it 5 full minis and 5 micros? If it's 5, and to be honest, it's probably 5 and 50 because it's how they've always been. So I'm just going to assume that that's what they are. But I would have liked them to clarify that. But now you get 5 contracts until you hit the trailing threshold, which on a 50K account will be 52,600. And then after that, then you get the full 10 contracts back. But what I like about what they're doing, which again, not a lot of other prop firms do, is if you go back under the 2,500, you can still trade 10. So they don't punish you because you lost money or because you took out a payout and now you're underneath the threshold that they deem that you need to stay in. So that's really good. I like that it's not about the balance. It's just about getting to the trailing stop to stop trailing you. They also talk about it not helping with not over trading and windfall and stuff like that, and helps with not hitting the trailing threshold. I kind of beg to differ, but I still think it's probably a good thing for them and for most traders as well. Apex has also now defined their risk management and what exactly they're looking for from traders. And I gotta say, to me, this is a little bit wild and this is very backwards hustling in my opinion, but hey, it is what it is. So basically, you can risk 5 times more than what you are willing to make, right, to be able to stay within their limits. So it's a max of 5 times the risk to reward is the way that they're looking at this. So basically, they're saying that if you're risking, or if your reward is 10 ticks, you can't risk more than 50 ticks. Super backwards hustling, because that means that if you lose 50 ticks, you basically got to win 5 trades to be able to make up for that one loss. So I don't know too many traders who trade this way. I know only of about like one trader who backwards hustles, but other than that, I don't know any other traders who trade this way. Most traders don't trade this way. And it gets even more interesting as we go along here. But yeah, they are allowing a 1-to-5 risk to reward ratio, which is nuts. You can use stops on the charts and ATM, or you can use a mental stop. So basically, they don't want the market to go against you 2,400 using a whole new account as your stop/risk management, only for it to come back and close at $100. And they showed like a whole, I guess, trade breakdown, if you want to call it, of a trader who literally was doing this, which I think is pretty nuts. He would rather let the market go against him $2,400 instead of just being in the right direction and then closing it out for $100 profit. I mean, at that point, you might as well just close for a loss, switch your direction, and make the $2,200 you would have made. So really insane the way some people trade. Although, I mean, I'm sure it happens. Probably happens a lot less than what they're making it out to be. But this is the way that they are allowing people to manage risk. Again, I think it's really crazy. It does say will result in a rule break, a warning, and probation, but it won't necessarily close your account. And then the last new rule that they added was a 30% negative P&L rule. Now, this rule right here is the reason why they were able to get rid of the DCA rule that they had before. Again, I'm not a big fan of this rule. I think this rule is like really, really weird and like kind of goes against like trading in general. But I mean, I guess it is what it is. It's just the Apex has some weird stuff. So they do not let your live, unrealized, open, or negative P&L go past 30% of your start of the day profit. So if you take a 10K profit to start out the day, your live open negative P&L can't go below 3K into the negative. You have to close it, or at least close part of it. But it's not a daily loss limit, so it doesn't close your account. So I don't know exactly like what the point of the rule is, because it's not a rule break per se. I don't know if they're like using it to where they can't pay you out, and it's not a total loss for the day. So like, I don't really know again like what the point of this rule is. Like I understand again, like if you have 100K live real money, you wouldn't let 30K go against you. I mean, they say that, but then again, there are probably some traders out here with 100K accounts who do let 30K go against them from time to time. Like I'm sure it happens. So, I don't know. It's really weird, especially because they have this rule, but then they're like not enforcing it per se. I feel like Apex does this a lot where they have these rules that they don't enforce or haven't yet figured out how they're going to enforce it. You might as well just put a daily loss limit if you're going to do that and maybe not have it below the account. I don't know. But again, I feel like traders would be really upset with that, but I don't really know what to make of this rule besides I think it's really weird and I think it's kind of unnecessary. I think just let people DCA, and if people are going to blow the account, they're going to blow the account. I think the thing that Apex is kind of forgetting is in these PA accounts, they're fake money, in which people in a 50K account paid you, 160 bucks to fund. So if they blow the account, who cares? They blew the account. You won 160 bucks and they got nothing. So I don't know. I think it's like a really weird rule to have. I don't quite understand it. They go into a little bit more depth here, which I'm going to get into, but it's a really weird rule. So you might have asked yourself, like I asked myself, what happens on the first day of trading when you don't have any profits at all? And so basically what they said is they're basing it off of the starting trailing threshold that you get. So on a 50K account, you get $2,500 with the drawdown. So it's $750 that you would get of your 30% negative P&L. If you have a 300K account, it's $7,500. So you get $2,250 for your 30% negative P&L rule. If you're under your safety net amount and you are still within your trailing threshold, then you always just use that $750 for the 50K or the $2,250 for the 300K or whatever account you're using. You're just going to use that if you're in the negative or you haven't hit that trailing threshold yet. And then once you've doubled the safety net amount, then you can go up by 50%. And that just gives you more of a buffer that you've built up. Again, I don't know. This is just a really weird rule to me. Like, I guess just have good risk management and you really don't have to worry about it. I think most traders don't. I think it's very few traders who watch a trade go against them 5, 6, even 10 times in the negative and they just don't cut it. I mean, I'm sure, with the influx of traders that they have and the traders that are like just trying to hit a big home run, I'm sure it happens, but I don't know. Again, I just think this is a really, really weird rule. I think it's really unnecessary. And I also think it's weird because they haven't really said how they're going to enforce it. So you have this rule here, but then you can't really enforce the rule because there's no real penalty against it, unless they're saying you can't get a payout, which they haven't said. So I don't know. I just think it's a really weird rule to have. Overall, I think that there's a lot of positives that come out of this Apex 3.0. I think the payout policy restructure is really good. I think them getting rid of the DCA is really good. I still think there's some things that Apex really needs to clear up. There's some things that are really unnecessary that Apex has implemented. Although I guess if it makes them feel better about, some of the rules that they got rid of, then, I mean, who am I to judge? But I would really love to hear in the comments what you guys think. I know a lot of people have left Apex because of, payout denials and the whole emails that we were getting about having to send in their trades recorded. People were leaving because of emails about going live, but then not being able to get any new accounts afterwards. So, I still think that Apex has a ways to go to figure all of their, ish out. I don't think that they're going insolvent. I don't think that they have money issues, because this doesn't seem like a move from a company that has money issues, especially with getting faster with payouts. You would think they would get slower with payouts. But like I said, let me know down in the comments what you guys think about all these new rules and all the new implementations that are going on. Please make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel, and you can check out my last Apex video right over here.